Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to Big Game Bound. I'm Jack Doles. That's Chris Hagan. We've got Jarrett Payton and JB Biunno joining us, and it is a Chamber of Commerce day here in sunny Tampa, Florida. Chris, it doesn't get any better than this. Having that sun bake on our skin today.
This is the best day we've had, and for concerned viewers, I already put on the sunscreen. It looks like we're having the old head coaches press conference here with the helmets here.
It does.
We don't know if these are our picks, but we're looking cool with the headgear here.
All right. Well, coming up on today's show, let's show you the playbook. We've got some great guests here, Dan Hampton and Jim McMahon, former Bears greats. That means we'll also team focuses. We've got a double dip for you today, the Chicago Bears and the New Orleans Saints. We're also going to talk about the XFactor in this game. So plenty to come, but let's get it right started.
That's right. We've got the son of sweetness, Jarrett Payton. He's doing the heavy lifting today. Let's get it cooking right now with a special guest.
When you look at it, everybody's talking about the quarterbacks, and rightfully so, but the coaches and the matchup between Bruce Arians and Andy Reid is very, very interesting. What's your take on both the coaches heading into this Super Bowl Sunday?
That's a good place to start. Look, here's what I think is really just so interesting. Andy Reid went to a Super Bowl 10 years ago with Donovan McNabb, but since then he hasn't had a quarterback that was capable of making it happen. Now, obviously he's got one. Almost in the same way, Bruce Arians, he was able to go to a Super Bowl once he found a quarterback, which happened to be Kurt Warner. They didn't win, but now 10 years later, whatever it's been, Tom Brady fell in his lap. So I think it kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It validates not only both coaches, but both coaches' systems, that if you have competent players, then you can expect them to be successful and get you where you want to go. And so in that way, you think that Andy Reid, who obviously is now everybody's coach of the year du jour, how much success they've had this past 3 years. But all that being said, you've got to just stand back and say to Bruce, hey, that was what were they, 6-10 or something, 7-9 last year, and all of a sudden you get the right guy, the right player, and Tom Brady is the GOAT, no question about it. He's not just a quarterback; he's maybe the greatest quarterback of all time. But it verifies and validates what Bruce Arians has had as a football schematic, a football plan for the last couple of decades. And I just think the whole thing it's fantastic. It's the GOAT versus the phenom.
Who do you think could be an X factor in Sunday's game? There's so many offensive weapons on both sides of the ball, and defensively, there's also some good players as well. To me, I'm leaning toward an offensive player on either team, but there's a lot of speed and a lot of talent on both squads.
Okay. Now, Jarrett, we all, we play this game, we all have certain egos. When I played, I wanted to be the best defensive lineman on the field. Richard Dent wanted to be the best, and Steve McMichael wanted to be the best. Well, a lot of players are going into this game, and let's talk about the skill. Mike Evans, nobody's really talked about him. Everybody's talking about Tyreek Hill. And so he's going to be, kind of carrying a chip on his shoulder. But the secret to the Tampa Bay offense, in my mind, obviously, is for them to allow Tom Brady to not only, be protected and buy enough time, and a lot of that is play action, but to be able to get the ball deep enough. And we saw him throw it so well early in the game against Green Bay down the field. If he's got time and Kansas City cannot, put the clock on him and make him start, and you know how it is. You've seen it when a quarterback gets knocked around early, he's never the same. He's jittery the whole game. And obviously that's what Steve Spagnuolo is going to do. He knows that, hey, if he gives up a touchdown, I ain't worried about it. I got a guy named Mahomes over here. He can get me a touchdown to get back even. Tampa Bay, they're a little bit different. They have a more methodical, plodding offense where Kansas City can score anytime, anywhere. So I think Spagnuolo is going to bring the house. And when you blitz both of these quarterbacks, it's a completely different reaction. And this past year, Brady in this Tampa Bay offense was 30th in the league in QBR when opponents brought a blitz of some kind, a 5, 6, 7-man rush. Conversely, Patrick Mahomes was number 1 in the NFL with a 98.6 rating QBR when you blitzed him. So you just look at it. I mean, it's almost like you're a dummy if you don't blitz Tom Brady.
Yeah, I'm going to switch it up just a little bit, and we're going to talk a little Bears because I have to get your take on how the end of the season came down. A lot of Bears fans were hoping for some type of change at the end of the season, and once that press conference came about, the Bears brass said they're not making any changes. They believe in Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy. Were you surprised that there weren't any changes made?
I wasn't surprised, no. Jarrett, I was very fortunate in the sense that I got to play for the Bears when they had somebody in charge that knew what was going on. Obviously, the great George Halas was still a factor, but he had appointed Jim Finks to be the general manager. And we all know what Finks was capable of doing, especially during the draft. I think we had 9 first-round draft picks starting in the Super Bowl. I mean, that in itself is incomprehensible. But all those things being said, the reason the Bears didn't make a change is they don't know what to do with that change. Should we get this guy? Should we get that guy? Should we fire this guy? Should we fire this one? They don't know what to do. They're thinking, everybody knows what was it? You do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result is kind of where we're at. And I personally think that if a couple of things fall into place, the Bears could be better next year. There's no question that Nick Foles is capable and competent. He was never given, I think, a fair shake with the offensive line, with all the injuries and the COVID, and as soon as Foles got the starting assignment, they went away from the conventional offense and running the ball. It was crazy. But a lot of times, in the off season, you can go back and dissect and reflect and realize, hey, I made a lot of dumb mistakes. I'm talking about Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace. I made a lot of mental errors, and I did a lot of things that I shouldn't have done and I would never do again. And in an abstract way, I think George McCaskey is hoping that this recapitulation, that we'll have a lot better idea of how to go about things. I think the experiment of Mitchell Trubisky has got to be over. But, like everybody else, wouldn't it be great if we would get a guy like Tom Brady to drop in our lap, like Tampa Bay was? Wouldn't it be Matt Ryan? I don't think you'll see that. The Bears are over the cap. I think they're just going to have to take their medicine and bring everybody back and just see if they can't catch lightning in a bottle. And is it possible? Maybe. Over time, you've seen a team kind of it's a one-hit wonder. They get hot for 1 year and then they go away. And maybe that's what happens next year.
That was the Danimal, part of a legendary Chicago Bear championship team in 1985. I grew up a Bears fan, and they were just bigger than life, but nobody was bigger than Walter Payton. Just the greatest running back, in my opinion, in the history of the game. And we're so excited to bring in the son, the Payton son. You want to follow him on social media, it's Payton son. Jarrett Payton joins us from Chicago. Jarrett, what was it? I know you were just 6 at the time when they won that championship, but what was it like being around that team?
Man, you guys, I just got chills when I'm thinking about it. This city was like no other. And I know we've had Stanley Cup championships. I lived through the 90s and the Bulls with the 2 three-peats, but nothing was like 85. The town was going crazy, and just think about it. They had no social media. You had to get your news either from the radio, the TV, or a newspaper, and they were known worldwide. So it was just amazing to see the impact that team had on the NFL and still having on people who love the NFL and watch this game on a constant basis.
Another crazy thing is even when the Cubs are at their best, when the Bears start, the Bears take over all the sports talk radio and the headlines. It's a Bears town. Cubs are great. All those other teams get some attention, but the Bears are the number one focus.
That's right, Jarrett. And now to make you feel old and make me feel older, I met you some 40 years ago right up the road in Lakeland, Florida, when I had the babysitting chore to take care of for your dad and your mom. Can you believe what kind of irresponsible parents were they? They left me in charge of a young Jarrett Payton. Somehow we got through it. But, yeah, you talk about that when the Bears got after the 5-1 start. We have people, in Indianapolis, a lot of Bears fans as well, and you start to feel that. They start to believe, but then they kind of had the streak there, kind of a one-and-done in the playoffs. But you heard Hampton there. He was not short of any opinions about they're going to stay pat. I know you don't have Chuck Pagano coming back as defensive coordinator, and you can see in some of those games the defense would get kind of frustrated with, like, hey, we're doing our part here for 3 quarters. Can you get us a touchdown? Can you get us something? Jarrett, do you think there are some pieces in place where if you get, lightning in a bottle, like Hampton said, that this team could make a run in the foreseeable future?
Well, I think the shelf life of the Bears defense is still in question. I mean, you still have a lot of players that have to play at a high level. Anytime you have, guys like Akeem Hicks on your defensive line, or Khalil Mack and guys like Roquan Smith, you can find a way to be able to make it happen. But I think early on in the season for the Bears, it was really determined on how well the defense was playing, because the offense wasn't able to create points and sustain drives and put points on the board. And so it put a lot of stress on that defense. Later in the season, we saw the defense kind of get tired and, they were carrying this team on their back. And then the offense stepped up. So it was a tale of 2 seasons. The Bears have to find a way offensively to have an identity. And we saw it at the end of the season when they were playing some bad teams. We saw them run the football, more boot, more outside zone. They got to keep doing that with David Montgomery. I think they have a good nucleus on the offensive side of the ball. They still got to figure out what they're going to do with Allen Robinson. They need more wide receiver help. Their offensive line needs to be revamped a little bit, especially at the tackle position with Bobby Massey and Charles Leno Jr. That experiment needs to be over. They got to address that in the draft or free agency. But it comes down to the quarterback. And we got to figure out who's going to be underneath center for the Bears. Right now, it's looking like it's going to be Nick Foles to start the 2021 season. If you shore up that offensive line a little bit and get that running game going and take the pressure off of him, kind of like that same situation that happened when he was in Philly, then this could be an opportunity for this team in the NFC North to be able to truly make a run and go after Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. But you got to have that signal caller, and I don't know if they're going to try to address that in free agency. I do want them to draft a quarterback, because that has been the issue. The issue was Ryan Pace has not been selecting quarterbacks in the draft since he got Mitchell Trubisky. And that's why we're looking at the Bears in the situation that they're in. So to me, you got to take a quarterback every single year. The Patriots did it when they had Tom Brady. He's the GOAT. They were still doing it there. And we've seen how some of those guys have progressed and gone on to other organizations and had success.
Jarrett, bigger need for the Bears right now, quarterback or offensive line? Because they got a few holes in that O-line.
Yeah, I look at the offensive line. James Daniels missed a lot of the year. I think he's a really good guard. Cody Whitehair as well. I love the fact that he can kind of interchange him from, center to guard. And then they found a guy on the practice squad, Sam Mustipher, who played center, who had an amazing year. I want to see if they can recreate that, but also come back healthy. I think it's on the outside, on those edges, that they have to get better at. But if they can run the football, I think it really does. That means you control the game on the ground. You also keep the opposing quarterback off the field. But you got to be able to not just run the ball. You got to be able to convert on third downs, get yourself in 3rd and short so you can convert those third downs. If it was me, I'm still thinking quarterback is the biggest need, even though offensive line is right up there. I would not be upset if they took an offensive tackle with their first pick in the first round.
Now, Jarrett, about 35 years ago, I can just imagine you as a little kid doing the Super Bowl shuffle. Could you sing us your dad's part right now? They call me Sweetness because I like to dance.
Running the ball is like making romance. We had to go to training camp to give Chicago the Super Bowl champ. We're not doing this because we're greedy. The Bears are doing it to feed the needy. We didn't come here looking for trouble. We just came here to do the big game bound shuffle.
Wow. I knew
fantastic.
I knew he would do that. And that's a great segue because earlier JP talked to the punky QB known as McMahon. Let's check that out.
Patrick's certainly got a great upside. I mean, he's a hell of a talent. He's a smart kid. I was talking to Andy Reid a few years ago, right when they traded Alex Smith. And I asked him, I said, "You going to be okay?" And he says, "Yeah, we're going to be just fine." He goes, "This kid's pretty special." And I've known Andy since the mid to late 70s. We were together at BYU. So I respect his opinion, and I knew that they were going to be fine. Brady is just, he's played a long time and had great success. I was very surprised. I was down in my house in Mexico the last 2 weeks, so I didn't see him play. I didn't see any of the games when they played the Saints. I figured the Saints were going to beat them, and then whoever went to Green Bay was going to lose to Green Bay. So I guess I had all that wrong.
When you think about Chicago and Mitchell Trubisky, he went through a lot putting on that Bears jersey, from the Bears moving up to get him and to not working out probably as a lot of Bears fans hoped that his career would have been in Chicago. Do you feel for the young man?
Well, he's still kind of young. He only played, 11 games in college, so he hasn't played a hell of a lot of football. And but he'll, he's going to get better. I think like I said, I think their offense is pretty good. And the little bit that I saw of him early on was that it looked to me like he predetermined where he was going to go with the football, and that's not a good thing. You should have a good idea before you get the snap who you're going to throw it to by the way they're lined up, and you don't pass up open people. First guy open is going to get the ball. Yeah, that was always my opinion, because you can't sit back there and hold on to football. You take sacks and turnovers and stuff like that. So you make a quick decision, you get rid of the football, and it looked to me like he was just kind of waiting for things to develop rather than getting rid of the ball. And he'll learn that. It takes time. And like I said, he didn't play a whole lot in college, so he's still got a lot of games to play before he gets comfortable.
For me, the other day with the anniversary of the '85 Bears in the Super Bowl, a lot of people, I posted pictures and tagged you on Twitter, but then also on Facebook. And just to see when I post those pictures of that team, I'm talking about thousands and thousands, close to 10,000 people responding to that post, just talking about what that team meant for them. And then also as well that like that '85 team was a reason why they started to love football. And these aren't just people from Chicago, it's from people all over the world. Does it make you get tingly on your arms when you think about the impact that you guys had back in those days?
Well, like yourself, I still talk to a lot of people that said, we weren't even football fans until you guys started winning. I think everybody just kind of enjoyed our attitudes and the way we went about our daily routines, and then going through practices and stuff like that. But then game time was always fun, and we, not only were we good, we had a lot of fun. And they saw us without our helmets. A lot of guys had, commercials and radio and TV shows. So they saw us off the field more than they did, I think, previous years. And I think that's what really got people involved with us.
Jim, what's your most memorable Super Bowl moment? Do you remember?
Getting out of Dodge without getting shot. I mean, that's what I was worried about. I was getting death threats for 3 days, and that idiot reporter went on TV and said I had called all the women of New Orleans sluts and the men stupid, and where they got that, I have no idea. So I was getting death threats for 3 days. Nobody wanted to stand by me at practice. They thought I was going to get shot. I don't really remember a hell of a lot of the game. I just wanted to get off the field and get out of town because it was getting kind of crazy. But as soon as that gun went off in the fourth quarter, I ran to that locker room. I didn't stick around for the festivities outside. In fact, when the gun went off, I looked at myself. I was thinking I got shot, but I got out of there quick.
That is crazy, a story I had never heard before. Jarrett, do you have these guys on your speed dial? Do you have them all in your cell phone?
Yes, I do. I mean, anytime that I need my uncles, I just call them up and they're always there for me. I love those guys.
That's so awesome. I'm curious, though. We know Jim McMahon has had some struggles after football. How's he doing?
Actually, during the interview, and he was talking about, but before the interview, we really talked a little bit. He says he's doing a lot better. He's had some procedures done, and he's not having those headaches. And I think that's what's so cool. Everybody looks at him and says that, he was fragile and this and that. And if he could have stayed healthy, the Bears could have won more championships. Mm-hmm. He is one of the toughest guys to ever play the game. And to see that he's doing well, it put a smile on my face and also made my heart feel good that, my uncle's doing a lot better because he was having some rough times.
I'm glad to hear that. That's part of the problem of being such a tough guy is this is a game that can just wear and tear and just take you apart.
And they really didn't protect the quarterbacks back then like they do now. Some of the hits he took, some of the cheap shots, easy to see why that would take it. Oh, yeah, one of the most memorable. Right now, though, let's check in with our guy behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz. He's JB.
Guys, man, I'm loving the audience that we have, streaming to apps, websites, social media platforms across the country, part of Nexstar Nation. Hello there to you. Man, look at this. Chris Hagan, Jarrett Payton, Jack Doles, I'm JB Biunno. We're going to get into X Factors now, you guys. We're going to go around. We kind of feel like the Brady Bunch here, but we're going to go around the Brady Bunch and talk about X Factors. Guys that maybe we haven't been talking about on this show all week long, Big Game Bound, that we haven't really been talking about that might have a big impact out of nowhere. Don't give me Mahomes and Brady. How about an X Factor that we wouldn't see coming? Who wants to start?
I'll tell you this. You think about a guy that could break a game open. You think about when these two met in November, Tyreek Hill. He's not an X factor. He's an X, Y, and Z factor. He had like 269 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns. But you're right, JB. There's always somebody. Think about Super Bowls past. There's somebody that steps up that we don't even know their name right now. Is it a special teams guy? Is it a reserve player that comes in? You think about the Patriots, their game-winning interception. Can you even name him right now, Jack Doles? The pick on the goal line against the Seahawks? No, you can't. No. Neither can I. You know why? He was an X factor, and we don't know who it's going to be. It's going to be a blocked punt. It's going to be a bad snap. You can be a negative X factor. You could send a snap over somebody's head. That's what's great about being an X factor. We don't even know who you are right now.
Is this your way of not giving an answer?
Exactly, Jack Doles. That's what I thought. That is how I do it like a politician. I take the question, I make a right turn, and then I push it off on you. So there's my X factor.
We're coming back to Chris at the end of this. We're gonna hold him. We're gonna hold him true. JP, what do you got?
Mecole Hardman, I think. Why not?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
You think about offensively what, Kansas City does, and we've been talking about the X factor all week, not like in segments, but the guys that we know, the household names, Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and Mahomes. But to me, if you're going to have to find a way defensively for the Buccaneers to stop those guys, it's going to leave Hardman open to be able to make plays. And we know he has the speed, and that's where I always say you got to pick your poison with KC, is because you try to take away the well-known guys, but if you don't, another guy can burn you. So I think Hardman has an opportunity to be an X factor in this game, not just on the field and offense, but also on special teams.
I could give you Sean Murphy Bunting and reel off a bunch of defensive backs, but I'm going to go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire because we're looking at the chance of a lot of rain out here, potential rain for this game. And I really think if the Chiefs can establish a running game, it's checkmate.
On the flip side of that, another LSU guy, how about Leonard Fournette? A guy who was a high draft pick, given up upon by Jacksonville. Yeah. Now here he is. He still has some home run potential. And as you said, an ugly day, a mutter, or wet track. Look for Leonard Fournette. Maybe he makes a difference in this one.
And he's playing his best football right now.
Right.
I mean, he's really upped his game come playoff time, JB.
Yeah, guys who we haven't really talked about on this show, here's my sleeper pick for the week. And, of course, JP's smiling because he knows it's going to be a Buccaneer, right? I mean, I'm not going to pick a Chief here. Guys, watch out for Cameron Brate. Rob Gronkowski is going to get a lot of attention just because he's Rob Gronkowski and because we've seen the highlight reels over and over again. But a guy like Cameron Brady loves throwing to the tight end. And if you watch these Buccaneers games over the last few weeks, Rob Gronkowski isn't getting nearly as many looks as Cameron Brate. I think that he's a guy that that could be hauling in a touchdown pass or two, maybe, if Buccaneers fans are fortunate come this Sunday at Super Bowl 55.
Was Fournette your pick?
Yeah, Fournette's my guy.
Okay, all right.
Ronald Jones, though, too. Watch out for Rojo, too. Both Buccaneers running backs, I think, are playing.
Hey, let's give. I know this is a household name, but no one's talking about him either. Mike Evans, man. Why can't he be the X factor? I feel like we're always talking about the offensive stars on the Chiefs, but we're not talking about, the guys and the offensive talent that they have on the Buccaneers side as well. Evans is one of those guys that can take over a game, and with his athletic ability, his size, he can go up and get the ball. And this could be one of those opportunities on a muddy track. We know both quarterbacks can still throw when it's raining out. I know it's 75% chance rain, but that can mean going up against smaller DBs, which we know that KC likes to put into the game to be able to stop the run. It could give him the opportunity to go past him or go up, and go get one of those high-pointed balls and bring it down for a touchdown. He's a big home run threat every time he's on the football field.
Yeah, and for those viewers that weren't here at the beginning of the show when we had NFL Hall of Famer Dan Hampton on and our own Jarrett Payton here asked, give me an X factor for the game. The first name out of his mouth was Mike Evans, number 13. And, Mike Evans beloved here in Tampa Bay. This is one of the longest tenured Bucs. So if that is your X factor here in Tampa Bay, there's some smiling Buccaneers fans out there. One way to get rid of a smile is, you guys have talked about it now over the last several minutes, the chance for rain. Here on Big Game Bound, we're going to start to focus now on the chance for rain and the impact that it could have on the game, plus your Big Game Bound live interactive poll results coming your way. But for the latest forecast, we have meteorologist Amanda Holly here with the very latest on the weather here in Tampa Bay for this Sunday.
Happy Thursday, Big Game Bound fans. Meteorologist Amanda Holly. We're just 3 days away from that big game, and unfortunately, all eyes are turning to the weather. Those rain chances will be increasing as a couple of fronts make their way in and stall out. It's not just going to be a few showers here and there. We have pretty significant rain chances on Saturday and into Sunday as that front lingers. The moisture kind of hangs out overhead as well. But there's a silver lining. Right now, it looks like the rain chances will be tapering down as we get toward kickoff and will be drier throughout the game. So the major problems will come in for all the tailgaters across the Tampa Bay area. Just make sure you have a backup plan, maybe to head indoors or have a tent in the area so that you have some shelter from some of those passing showers. I don't think we're going to see too much in the way of any lightning, so that's some good news as well. Also, temperature-wise, we're not going to cool off that much. It's going to stay pretty mild throughout the entire day and even on the humid side. But that front comes in, kind of stalls out and brings in that moisture for both Saturday and into Sunday. But like I said, as we head into Sunday, that front looks like it'll be sagging down to the south, decreasing those rain chances for game time. But it does come back to the north as we head toward Monday, and that'll increase those rain chances again. So keep that in mind if you're headed home. Otherwise, temperatures will be slightly above average for the Tampa Bay area. Go Bucks! For Big Game Bound, meteorologist Amanda Holly.
Thanks to Amanda for that report there. That was the latest models that we have coming in. So looks like rain could be a factor, you guys. And this brings us to our poll question for our Big Game Bound audience. Should it rain? And again, Amanda there saying that the rain is likely to taper off as the game goes on. But provided that it does rain, maybe for an entire half of football, JP, I'll throw it to you first. How does this impact the game, and does it favor either team?
I think it favors probably the Bucks a little bit more. I mean, with Leonard Fournette, and Rojo, they have the opportunity to really ground and pound. They got two guys that love contact and get you yards after contact. And the Kansas City Chiefs can run the ball, but that's not a part of their offense. It doesn't have to happen. They could just go out and sling it if they want to. The Bucks is all about play action, getting the run game going, and then Tom Brady off of that being able to, hit his tight ends, take those shots down the field. So if it does rain, I think the advantage goes to the Buccaneers offense because I love their offensive line. I love their running backs, and both guys can be a nightmare for opposing defenses.
Yeah, and the Bucks have the best run game in the NFL if this turns into a game where you're having to run the football. As far as the quarterbacks, let's face it, Tom Brady played in crappy weather for 20 years in Foxborough. He's done that. Mahomes has had some bad weather he's dealt with. I remember the playoffs a couple of years ago against the Colts, a snowy day up there in Kansas City. So I think you can't tell who's going to be an advantage for, but it could be a disadvantage. Like we said, ball security, a fumble, through the hands, a pass, the ball comes out of a hand from a quarterback. So you never know who it's going to affect until it does affect somebody.
Yeah, and I think we'll stay on the quarterbacks here. Which quarterback needs to use his feet more? I think it's Patrick Mahomes. He does so much with his feet to get receivers open and keep a play going. Tom Brady just makes these short little pocket moves to find enough space to unload, and that arm can throw at anything. So I think rain favors Tampa just because in that situation, Brady doesn't need to move as much as Patrick Mahomes does.
Are all four of us here agreeing on something? We're all picking the Bucks.
We know you're not saying anything other than Bucks.
Picking the Bucks. We're just saying the rain favors the Bucks.
Right.
So
yes. If the rain favors the Bucks, but all four of us agree that if it rains, it helps the Bucks.
Yes.
I'm with that, and I think that our audience might be also thinking the same way. Let's check out here, you guys, our interactive poll results here on Big Game Bound. For those of you joining us here on Facebook Live, you've had the interactive widget pop up on your device, and you can vote in our poll here, which you can see it here on screen. If it rains on Sunday, which team does it favor? Wow, actually, this is a surprise. Check this out: 38% for the Chiefs, 31% for the Bucks, 31% for neither. So that's 2,539 votes and counting now, a couple more trickling in here. But the Chiefs are our audience's pick for being favored should the game have a significant amount of rain, you guys.
JB, I just think people refuse to believe it's going to rain. I mean, look at it. We got sunshine, blue sky. We're in Florida. It's not going to rain on Super Bowl Sunday.
I would tend to go toward the neither as well because, like we said, you don't know one play. Will it be one or two plays that are really affected by that weather? And you just don't know until it happens. Jarrett, when you think about if you're a running back, are there different things on a natural turf that you go with the different cleats? Do you have to mix that up as well if you see something really horrible as far as the field conditions?
Well, I mean, you can. I think a lot of guys, though, kind of just use the regular, molded studs. But yeah, I really think the biggest thing, and you talked about it, Chris, ball security is such a big issue when it comes to games like this. I remember my first start at Doak Campbell against Florida State, and it was raining a monsoon. And, I'm already thinking about going up against my arch rival, but then also holding on to the football. And so, you can't wear sleeves because it slips out of there. It's hard to wear gloves because those get soggy. So you have to kind of, ball protection always, secure the ball and sacrifice yardage for the football always. But we're going to see both these teams have an issue there. I don't see them changing their cleats and going to something crazy. I think most of the guys are just going to be wearing normal cleats that they would normally wear.
All right, so all year long, our correspondent for the New Orleans Saints has been the longtime sports director at WGNO in New Orleans, Ed Daniels. And our next team focus is the New Orleans Saints. So tee it up for us, Ed.
For the first time since 2006, the New Orleans Saints figure to have a need at quarterback. Drew Brees expected to retire, so that leaves either Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston, or perhaps a quarterback in the draft as a possible replacement. Before the 2020 season, the Saints gave Hill $16 million guaranteed. So if you follow the money, at least for now, Taysom Hill is the quarterback. The Saints are about $100 million over the cap. So decisions will have to be made. Possible deletions include linebacker Alex Anzalone, cornerback Janoris Jenkins, and defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins. The Saints also must sign defensive end Trey Hendrickson, who in a contract year had a breakout season with 13.5 sacks. The Saints have drafted very well, as good as any team in the National Football League. How talented is that roster? Without its 15-year franchise quarterback, we are about to find out.
One thing we have found out is then when Drew Brees didn't play, the Saints still won somehow. This is the one organization that seems to be able to just – Sean Payton's such a good coach, but what do you do? Do you draft a quarterback? Do you stick with one of these guys? Do you jump into this market where there are some quarterbacks now that like a Deshaun Watson? What do they do?
It all goes back to something JP said about the Bears when you have that window of opportunity. Do you feel like that window is open like in Indianapolis, that all you need is that magic piece at quarterback? I think they go out and draft somebody, but I think they go with one of those two, with Hill or Jameis. The thing about Taysom Hill is I look at it like this. I love pancakes. Pancakes are delicious, but I wouldn't want to eat pancakes every meal. So Hill's great to come in there, the change of pace guy. He's going to run it. He's going to do some trick plays. Could he be the guy that can go out there and every down guy the entire game? I know he's had some success in limited starts and limited roles, but I don't know if this is a guy that's going to take you to the mountaintop, which is what the expectation has been in New Orleans ever since Drew Brees has been playing there at such a high level.
Do you know how many teams in the NFL would kill for a chance to have the decision between Jameis Winston, the former previously reigning NFC passing leader, and Taysom Hill, a Swiss Army knife, do-it-all quarterback? I mean, you guys really think that the Saints could draft a quarterback when you have two legitimate options on the roster?
Well, first of all, I think if you kill to get a quarterback, that's way worse than tampering in this league. That's probably a fireable offense. But, yeah, that's a good problem to have. But let's face it, if you have two quarterbacks, you got none. You got to have a guy that's your guy that you're going to go to battle with. You don't want to have that seesaw. The fans saying, well, you got to have Winston. Well, why'd you play Winston when Taysom's so good? I think it's an interesting problem to have, but it's not necessarily a bad one to have.
And I don't think any team in the NFL has drafted better than New Orleans over the last 5 years. Jarrett, what do you think? What do they do? Do they stay in-house or do they look around?
Well, I think you definitely got to maybe search for a quarterback in the draft if you find a guy that fits your system, and you trust Sean Payton to be able to make that assessment and find a guy that is actually going to fit what he wants to do. But right now, if I had to choose between the two, listen, Taysom Hill is awesome, but I can't believe I'm agreeing with Chris on this one because I don't like to agree with him with anything. But yeah, I just don't know if that is the right solution for an every down quarterback. To me, I would definitely, when Brees went out, I thought it was a smart decision to put Jameis Winston in. That was my thought process, and keep Taysom Hill doing the things that he's been able to do. Thing that I love about it is because if you have a quarterback and Hill is doing his thing, teams have to game plan for that as well. And we know during the week, once the weeks start going, it's hard every single week. You don't get enough practice time and enough film time to be able to kind of do all these things on the football field in practice. And I think that's one of the added bonuses of having a guy like Hill on your roster. It just gives you that nice little sprinkle here and there. Winston would probably be my day one starter. Taysom Hill would be able to do what he's been doing. And when we need him to come in, if there's something that happens, then he can come in and take over the quarterback position. But then also having a quarterback that you drafted to be able to be around in that system and learn for a little bit, I think that would be so smart of the Saints and Sean Payton.
Yeah, I love Hill in his current role. I'm not sure I love him as the guy, but Jameis Winston he signed with the Saints knowing he probably wouldn't play much, and it was a year to kind of learn under Drew Brees after he had thrown 30 touchdowns and thrown 30 interceptions. We know he's wildly talented, but how much do you think this year of tutelage will help him, Jarrett?
Oh, I think it's a lot. I mean, just being around, you think about, quarterbacks that have an opportunity to be, behind Brady and with Belichick. I think anytime that you can go to a system where you have great offensive minds, especially as a quarterback, and you're smart, man, you can learn and pick up a lot. And I think just by, seeing the offense, being around the offense, watching film, with Drew Brees, I think it definitely helped him out a lot. We know that Jameis Winston has the skills to be able to play the quarterback position. It's about learning from those mistakes that he made, his last year in Tampa, and can he fix, not turning the ball over. If he can do that and have some playmakers, which they do have on that Saints roster, you need to probably add another wide receiver to the mix to be able to truly be elite. But yeah, I would take it that it was a nice a year to be able to learn from some guys that really truly know the game of football.
And that's hard for JP to do there. Talk nice about a Florida State guy out of youth. So he means it. Guys, my last thought for the day, I'm going to leave you with this. Malcolm Butler. You know who that is?
Oh, yeah. The defensive back.
That's the guy who had the interception, who was the XFactor.
Oh.
You pulled it out. You didn't know his name before that game. We can't remember his name now. I had to Google it. That's somebody on Monday will be saying, hey, can you believe that this fella, Barney Fife, made this incredible play? That's what's so exciting about the game of football.
I'll give you one more name, and this is going to upset Jarrett, too, because it's a Florida guy. Kyle Trask. If he's sitting there when the Saints have their first pick, do they jump on him?
No. That might. Hey, he might be Jameis Winston 2.0. I don't know, man.
I'll end out on this, you guys. So I called up my guy shortly before the show, a friend of mine. His name is Roger Goodell, and I said, hey, we want to do this giveaway for tickets, Super Bowl tickets. Can Big Game Bound get some Super Bowl tickets to give away? And Roger Goodell, he was unable to provide me with tickets. We had a great, lengthy conversation about life and everything. It was wonderful, but you know what he did? You know what he did give me? He gave me tickets here to the Jarrett Payton gun show. That's what he did give me here, you guys. Yeah, he gave me tickets to the JP gun show. So if anybody wants tickets, you know where to come.
Yeah, meanwhile, Chris and I are still wearing jackets.
I'm going to buy Jarrett some shirts that actually fit him. Those got shrunk in the wash somehow.
He wears mediums.
We love you, JP.
Yes, we do.
Love
Hey,
you guys,
JB,
man.
why don't you close us out? Or Jarrett, one of you guys.
Yeah.
No, I'm not closing out. This is JB's show, man.
No. Hey, you guys, tickets to the gun show. Yeah, hit me up on Twitter. We'll make sure that you get exactly what you're looking for. Big Game Bound. More of JP's guns. More of the two guys here overlooking the Hillsborough River here on the left. Let's go to the sky cam here. We're end out on the sky. Look at how beautiful that is, the Hillsborough River. We can only pray for weather this beautiful come this Sunday at Super Bowl 55. However, rain is in the forecast. We're going to keep you posted on all the key Super Bowl storylines here on Big Game Bound, as well as the weather. But for now, for Jack Doles, Chris Hagan, Jarrett Payton, I'm JB Biunno. We'll see you next time as we flash the guns one more time here from Tampa. We'll see you tomorrow on Big Game Bound.
Where am I?